Hello, friends, and welcome back to The Pines. Today's stories delve into what happens when the gym stops being a place to build your body and boost your confidence, and instead turns into a house of horrors. The Unforgiven. My stepbrother Todd had always seemed like kind of a jerk, but it wasn't until we moved in together after I finished high school that I got a front row seat to his smug arrogance. He thought he was smarter, funnier, and better than almost everyone. But his latest obsession, his wannabe fitness influencer gig, took things to another level. Todd was trying to make a name for himself by secretly recording people at the gym, catching them messing up their form or looking out of shape, then making fun of them for his small but loyal following. His videos were mean and his humor was cruel, but those videos were getting some serious traction with his followers, something his more mundane fitness content never did. One of his worst moments came when he secretly recorded a young woman who was clearly struggling with her workout. She was overweight and just trying her best to push through her exercises, but all Todd saw was an easy target. "Thar she blows," he cackled in a voiceover on a video of her huffing and puffing on a treadmill. When she tripped and fell, he erupted with laughter. "We've got a beached land whale," he shouted, showing absolutely no empathy as the video showed her bleeding from the nose and mouth. The video cut off as others, not including Todd of course, rushed over to help her. Even some of his followers, who were usually all in on Todd's antics, dropped off, telling him this was too far. The girl looked seriously hurt, but Todd didn't care. He grinned and said, "I don't want any snowflakes following me anyway," shrugging off their criticisms. He lost a bunch of followers after posting that video, but chose to focus on the one new follower he added. In the days that followed, other posters began to search for the woman Todd had filmed, trying to identify her. There were claims that someone had found her, but she was adamant about staying anonymous. The people around her said she likely wouldn't return to the gym anytime soon. She was too humiliated. Todd didn't seem to care. It was just another controversy, and as far as he was concerned, any attention was good attention. A few weeks later, things started to feel off. Todd received a series of strange phone calls from a blocked number. At first, there was just silence. Then, just as Todd was about to hang up, a voice, low and muffled, whispered something that sent shivers down Todd's spine. "You're going to pay." After that, the calls came daily, each one longer than the last, always ending with the same muttered threat. Todd wasn't someone who scared easily, but this got to him. Then things escalated. Todd went to the gym one day, his biceps and his usual smug demeanor both on full display, only to find a strange man staring at him from across the weight room. The guy was older than Todd, probably in his early 30s, fit with short cropped hair and a full sleeve of tattoos on his left arm. For a full minute, the guy just sat there staring without blinking, before he stood up and just walked away. Todd didn't think much of it at first. Just another weirdo at the gym, right? But over the next week, the guy kept appearing. Every time Todd came in, he saw him, usually sitting in the same spot, staring at Todd in silence. Often, the man would be wearing jeans and work boots, not gym clothes at all, not even pretending he was there to work out. He was just watching. On the 5th day, Todd finally confronted him. "Hey bro, do you have a problem?" he asked, his irritation boiling over. The man continued to stare at him for a long moment, then finally said, "No, but you do." Todd frowned. "What do you mean?" The man stood, looked Todd dead in the eyes, and said, "You need to stop, and you need to atone." With that, he walked away. Todd was shaken. When he came home and told me about it, I urged him to take down his videos, to stop making that kind of content. He had dropped to 13 followers, and I pointed out that the negative attention wasn't worth it. At first, Todd refused. Those videos were his most watched content, he said. He wasn't going to give up on them just because a few people were upset. But finally he relented and made an apology video. He sat in his room and spoke directly to the camera, saying he was sorry for offending anyone, especially the people he had made fun of. He promised to delete the old videos and make positive content from now on. I think he tried to cry, but couldn't muster any actual tears. It got a few likes, but hours later, something strange happened. Todd's phone buzzed. A new comment had been left on the video. The username was just a string of random letters and numbers, but the comment? It was simple. Unforgiven. Todd was immediately on edge. Over the next few days, nothing more happened. No more calls, no more weird messages. He thought it was finally over. But then he received a private message from the same account. It was a link. Don't click it, I warned him. It could be a virus or spyware or something. But Todd didn't listen. The link took us to a strange page. There were several videos, all of them showing Todd in various places. The first one was from 2 days ago, him at the gym using the chest press. No commentary, just the sound of the gym's background noise. The next was of him leaving a convenience store, holding a sandwich and a drink. Then another, him at the gas station. Each video was like this, showing Todd going about his life, completely unaware he was being filmed. But the one that really made his blood run cold was the last video. It was a clip of Todd leaving our apartment that morning, getting in his car, and driving away. He knows where I live, Todd whispered, visibly shaking. We tried to get the police involved, but they didn't seem to take it seriously. Todd was freaking out, but they said there were no direct threats. When he went back to the gym to ask if they could pull video of the man who had been stalking him, they couldn't identify him. He wasn't a member, they said, and couldn't be tracked down. Todd tried to reach out to TikTok, but by the next day, the stalker's whole account had been deleted. Every single video. It was like it never existed. Todd was a wreck, constantly looking over his shoulder. I suggested he go stay with my mom and his dad for a while, or go visit his mom in Florida, but he refused, saying he didn't want to put them in danger. Instead, he suggested that I go stay with our parents so I wouldn't get wrapped up in all of this. I refused. I wasn't going to bail on him. That night at around 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of a loud knock. When I came into the hallway, Todd was standing there, eyes wide and bloodshot, staring toward the door. I got up to check the peephole, but no one was there. When I opened the door, an envelope was taped to the frame. Inside was an obituary clipped from a newspaper. It was the young woman Todd had made fun of in his video. I told Todd to call the police, but he didn't. They hadn't done anything last time. Instead, we just sat together on the couch until I fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, Todd was gone. He never came home. 2 days later, my stepdad received a call in the middle of the night. Todd had fallen off an overpass onto the interstate below. A truck had struck him, and despite the best efforts of the doctors, he didn't make it. The police said it was mostly an accident, although they couldn't rule out suicide. His blood alcohol level was 0.17. They used the word fallen, never pushed, but I don't believe it. I still have the obituary, and every night I look at the list of survivors. Her parents, 2 older brothers, a younger sister, and several unnamed aunts, uncles, and cousins. Among them, I'm certain, is the man who confronted Todd at the gym. Maybe more of them were involved. Maybe one of them threw Todd off that overpass. I may never know for sure, but I do know this. Todd isn't the only one who needed to atone. The personal trainer. When I decided to hire a personal trainer, I expected drastic changes in my life. Just not the kind I got. After a bad breakup where my slimy ex hooked up with a woman I worked with, I decided to get in better shape to boost my confidence. Okay, I also thought I might meet some gym hunk to make my ex jealous, and maybe even beat him up. I joined a big corporate gym in my city with all the fancy machines, a pool, a sauna, the works. Along with my membership came 3 free sessions with a trainer. I was matched with a trainer named Derek Carter. From the start, he was polite, professional, and attentive. Not to mention pretty hunky. Our sessions were intense, but rewarding. I felt like I was making quick progress. I was starting to look and feel better, stronger, more energized. After my first 3 free sessions, I signed up to continue training with Derek twice per week. Derek had only recently started working at my gym, having moved, or so he said at the time, from Indiana. He didn't yet have as many clients as the other trainers, so he gave me extra attention, even sneaking in the occasional free session when he saw me working out on my own. We began to build a friendship. I opened up to him about my reasons for getting in shape, my cheating ex. He shared that the reason he left Indiana was because his fiancée cheated on him. We started to grow closer. When he'd spot me, I noticed him leaving his hands on my hips just a little longer than necessary. I didn't mind. He'd compliment my progress and my body, and I'd blush like a schoolgirl. I was developing a full-blown crush. One day he told me that some of his friends were going on a trail run that weekend and invited me along. I quickly accepted. He picked me up at my apartment that Saturday morning, and we went to meet his friends, a mix of guys and girls, all as fit as Derek, at a nearby park. I was nervous, but surprised myself at how well I was able to keep up with this group of gym rats. I started to tire at the end, and Derek slowed up and stayed with me. When he dropped me off at home, we kissed. I was in heaven. We officially started dating, but had to keep it quiet at the gym. Dating members was against gym policy, and Derek said he'd be fired if anyone found out. I didn't mind too much. It was actually kind of hot to sneak around. He'd let his fingers gently pass over my butt, or I'd give his arm a quick squeeze, and it was like our dirty little secret. Sure, I would have liked to post photos on my social media so that my ex could see, but that was a small sacrifice to have this great, hot guy. About a month into dating, we were planning on breakfast after Derek had spent the night. He was in the shower and asked me to grab the face wash he had left in his overnight bag. When I went to get it, his wallet fell out and fell open, and that's when I noticed his driver's license for the first time. It wasn't local, which wasn't that strange, since he had only recently moved here. But it wasn't an Indiana license either, where he said he had moved from. Rather, it was a Pennsylvania license. He had never mentioned living there. But that wasn't even the strangest part. The strangest part was the name on the license. Derek Collins. Collins, not Carter. I froze. A sense of foreboding washed over me. "Babe?" Derek called from the shower. "Did you find it?" Yeah," I said. "It was buried under your jeans." I quickly snapped a photo of his license, shoved his wallet back in the bag, and brought Derek his face wash. Once he was cleaned up, I faked not feeling well and said I needed to skip breakfast. Derek seemed concerned, but I assured him that I just felt that time of the month coming on and convinced him I only needed to stay home and rest. He kissed me on the forehead and took off. Once he was gone, I had just one goal: to figure out who the hell Derek Collins was. It actually wasn't that difficult. Searching his name, the town in Pennsylvania, and personal trainer took me to a news story that made bile rise up in my throat. "Trainer questioned in gym member's disappearance," read the headline from a little more than a year ago. A picture of Derek, taken from an old gym's website, was included in the article. According to the article, the woman, Emily Davis, had done personal training sessions with Derek at the gym. Her friends told police and reporters that they had become involved romantically. One Monday, she just didn't come to work. Her friends quickly pointed the finger at Derek. A follow-up article from a week later had little in the way of updates, other than to say Derek had been suspended from the gym during the investigation and that he denied any wrongdoing. A few months later came one final update. The police were not pressing charges against Derek at that time. Emily's body had never been found, and there was no hard evidence tying Derek to her disappearance. He did admit that they had been dating, and he was fired. Based on the timing of that article, he had moved here just a few months later. I felt my heart race as I looked up his old gym and called them. The woman that answered the phone first said they were unable to give out any information about current or former employees. "Please," I said, "I've been dating this guy for a month, and I just found out he might not be who I thought he was." There was a long silence. When she spoke again, it was in a concerned whisper. "You need to stay away from him. He's bad news." "So you think he had something to do with Emily's disappearance?" I asked. "I'm sure of it," she said, still whispering. "We all are, and nobody here thinks she was the first. Don't ever be alone with him. Don't ever let him know where you live." "He already does," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Then you need to find someplace safe to go," she said. "I'm sorry. I have to go." The phone went dead. I sat there in silence. What did she mean by nobody there thinking Emily was the first? Were there other women that disappeared around Derek? Was he a serial killer or something? How many more women hired him as a trainer, only to vanish? Just then my phone buzzed with a text message. It was Derek. "Hey babe, hope you're feeling better." He added 3 heart emojis at the end. I stared at my phone for a full minute. I had nowhere to go. For now, the safest thing was to make sure he didn't know I was on to him. "A little," I wrote back. After a moment, I added a heart emoji of my own. Best to keep him happy for now, until I can figure out my next move. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I do know one thing. I don't want to be the next Emily. The sauna. I've been going to the gym for years, and after a tough workout, I always like to unwind in the sauna. There's just something about the heat that relaxes my muscles and clears my head. That day, I had done a heavy squat session in the weight room. My legs were aching and my back was tight. After showering, per gym rules, I slipped into the sauna. There was one other guy in there. His name was Evan. I recognized him from seeing him around the gym. He was in his 40s, like me, and seemed like a decent guy. He sat on the bench, leaning back against the wall, a white washcloth draped over his face. I sank down onto the wooden bench directly across from him, the heat immediately starting to soak into my skin. "Hey, Evan," I said, more to let him know I was there than anything else. No response. I shrugged and leaned back, trying to shake off the burn from the workout. I closed my eyes. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt heavy, almost peaceful. Several minutes passed. I had almost forgotten Evan was there when I opened my eyes and saw him again, still sitting there. I watched him for longer than I probably should have. I couldn't help but feel a little weird about it. He didn't seem to be moving, like, at all. The washcloth was still over his face, and he had a towel draped around his neck, covering his shoulders, so I couldn't see much of him. But it was weird. Something just seemed off. I let it go, figuring maybe he was just taking a nap or something. I leaned back again and closed my eyes. After a few minutes, I thought about striking up a conversation. "You doing okay, man?" Nothing. I shifted uncomfortably on the bench. I could hear my heartbeat thudding in my ears. The sauna was starting to feel hotter, the air thick and heavy, almost suffocating. I wiped my forehead and glanced at Evan again. His body remained perfectly still. Not a twitch, not a breath. Could he be sleeping? I wasn't sure, but now something didn't sit right in my gut. A nagging thought tugged at the back of my mind. Is he okay? I stared at him, my skin prickling with unease. Was he even breathing? I squinted in the dim light. Was I just imagining things, or was there a slight smell in the sauna? Maybe it was the heat, or maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me, but the air suddenly felt wrong. "Evan?" I called, louder this time. Still nothing. I felt a wave of dread wash over me. My palms were clammy, and it had nothing to do with the dry heat. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was really, really wrong. I tried to focus, thinking I'd probably just overworked myself at the gym. Maybe I was just imagining things. Another 10 minutes passed, and I was on the verge of losing it. Every time I glanced over, I expected to see him move, blink, shift, something, but he stayed exactly the same, limp, unmoving. "Man, if you're messing with me, this isn't funny," I muttered, my voice shaky. "Come on, bro, wake up." Still nothing. I stood up slowly, my heart pounding. Something wasn't right, and it was starting to feel all too real. I stepped toward him cautiously, trying not to freak out. I reached out a hand and tapped his shoulder lightly. "Evan?" That's when his body slid sideways. The washcloth fell off his face. I froze. His eyes were wide open, staring, blank, lifeless. My heart slammed in my chest, my entire body going cold as the reality hit me like a ton of bricks. Evan was dead. I had just spent the last 20 minutes sitting in a sauna with a dead body. I felt like I was going to pass out. The room seemed to spin, the heat unbearable. My legs gave out beneath me as I stumbled backward, my breath catching in my throat. I gasped, stumbling towards the door, desperate to get out of that room. But no matter how fast I moved, no matter how far I ran, I couldn't shake the image of those wide, unblinking eyes. It's been nearly a year, and while I still work out regularly, I've never set foot in the sauna again. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed these spooky stories, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time with more Whispers from the Pines.